Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Thursday morning, another edition of Just Scrap Radio, hosted by bjpenn.com. Hashtag at Just Scrap Radio for those of you following us on Twitter, and please feel free to do so. Ask us questions during the broadcast. Today, we are joined with one single guest. He needs a whole show to himself because I know there's a lot of questions being asked, a lot of people wondering what the motivation is, and now we're going to have BJ Penn here to discuss his upcoming fight with Rory MacDonald and basically to see where BJ's at. My co-host with me, my host, let's be real, Jens Pulver. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, brother? I had to let you rip with that intro because you know how we are. We share. We're brothers. So, hey, everyone, what's going on? So, what's up, Abel? How you doing?
Oh, man, big weekend. Obviously, a big weekend pass. Lots to talk about. The Ultimate Fighter finale. Team Cruz and Team Faber finally wrapped it up. Excited. We had a Washington guy, Spokaloo Washington in the house, Spokompton, Spokeezy, however you want to say it. Big deal for the state of Washington here. I think that'll put us on the map. Big things coming up this weekend as well. Obviously, we got a rematch between Demetrius Johnson, the Mighty Mouse DJ, and Ian McCall, Uncle Creepy with that killer mustache. They're going to be going at it on Friday. We got the Belmont Stakes coming up. We're a couple of sons of a jockey. You and I know a lot about horse racing, really into it. And then, obviously, the biggest excitement for me, obviously, coming up for the next month, I am going to be completely entranced, engulfed, a part of the European Championships where my Spanish, the La Furia de Rojo, are going to try to defend their crown. So let's get right into it, brother.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about what's coming. We can talk about what's happening. I mean, we can go right into, I don't know. Which one do you want to do? You want to wrap with where we came from, or do we want to go right into, I mean, should we go Campman, Ellenberger, and then blast into McCall Johnson? I guess we should take it in the timeline, to think. So what did you think overall about that fight and that fight card?
Well, first off, big props to Michael Chiesa. Big props to him on winning. Obviously, the guy is an inspirational story. His father passed away leading into the show. The first couple days he was there. A horrible thing to have happen, obviously, and our condolences go out to him and his family. But then the way that he was able to deal with it and internalize it and turn it into something positive, he's a real inspiration, and I think people are really going to be interested in following his career. He wraps it up with a sick rear naked choke and puts Iaquinta to sleep in the end there. And big props to him. Like I said, state of Washington, the whole state, our love is with you. And then we got to talk about Martin Kampmann. I know the Korean Zombie's taken, so I've come up with a new nickname for him that I think is appropriate. Martin Kampmann is a White Walker. That's what he is. The guy he's the Undying. He's the undead. He should be on Game of Thrones. I've never seen a guy who can take the kind of punishment that he can and then just end a fight abruptly. I mean, the way that he ended that fight, those knees, bam, bam, put Ellenberger on his back in a fight that it just didn't look like he was going to be around even a whole lot longer. So, Jens, take us through. I mean, what does it take to be a guy like, what does it take to be Martin Kampmann?
Well, and that's the hard part is when you're going against a guy like Ellenberger. Ellenberger's made a name for his explosive starts. He's got, and again, a lot of people, the best part about not being a quote unquote striker or a boxer, when you're a wrestler and your goal, you like to get in there, manhandle people, get that dirty box going, get that clinch, take them down, and things like that. You're left with nothing but bombs. You're left with nothing but throwing bombs. And why wouldn't you? You want to get them flinching. You want to get them backing up. You want to get them respecting. There's no pity patting, no jabs for a setup, nothing like that overall. And to go out there and just lambook, the big shots, because that's really what you're trying to do is stun this guy, make sure he wants to respect your power. He knows you're going to come out explosive. And yeah, like you said, the White Walker just kind of, not that he sat back and, I'm gonna start out slow. That's just how he is. He's a slow starter, but obviously he showed, hey, bring what you got. Let me see what, when I make it through it and your gas tank is on empty, check out my 3/4 of a tank when I start coming back at you. And that's, to me, is what really happened. And yeah, I mean, it happened to derail an Ellenberger that I mean, people were talking titles. They were talking, right up there as a contender.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe where this fight puts Campman even. And I think you're right. I saw Ellenberger. I did start to see his shoulders rise and fall. He was breathing a little heavy at the point where it happened. He started actually to retreat a little bit, and Campman was able to come forward then and get the clinch. I think Ellenberger may have kind of blown his wad, to be honest. But let's talk about where this puts Campman. I mean, the guy has wins over Carlos Condit. He has wins over Paulo Thiago, Rick Story, Thiago Alves, another great comeback win there. And now with Ellenberger. So where do you think this puts Martin Campman as far as his career right now?
Well, you can't write him off. You have to put him up there in the top just because of the people that he's beaten. I mean, I wouldn't even go so far as to say, oh, he's the gatekeeper, so to speak, because really he's not. I mean, this is a guy trying to climb the ladder as well. He's not, I've been up there, I can't get it done, or what. How you get some guys, they just can't beat that champ, and then they get pushed over to the gatekeeper or something that way. But the reality is he's a contender, and I mean, yeah, exactly. Look at the matches. Look at where he's just put the boots to people and been beating them, and then to derail another guy who had a massive win streak. And in the UFC, that's not easy. I mean, in MMA, it's not easy because things can happen so fast. Ellenberger was a tank. So now, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know, where do they put him? I mean, is he going to be that a la Chuck Liddell kind of guy? He's just going to have to keep knocking off top contenders until he can really say, look, I'm right here, give me my shot? Or, is he even after it? I don't know if Campman's more of the guy, hey, I'm just here to fight, whoever you put me with, yeah, that's what I'll do. But you look at the people that he's beaten, you know what I mean? You have to put him up there. You can't ignore him as a contender, no doubt. And then the other thing with Ellenberger, see, my question would be to you is, where does he go from here? I mean, where does that knock him down? Does that, you know what I mean? Does that put him down lower, or is that, hey, that's just one loss, let's see what you can do, and you know what I mean, in the next fight?
That's a good question, really, when you think about Ellenberger. What it comes down to, I think, is, and you know this, I think, as well as anybody, what mental state is that going to put him into now? How's he going to feel about himself coming out of the fight? How's he going to respond to what happened in the fight? And then, what changes is he going to make in his game, maybe to propel himself? And I think he's still only 1 or 2 wins away from a title shot, Ellenberger. I say, after looking at Campman's record and just watching his fights, there's no shame in losing to a guy like that. And it was in a fight where Ellenberger was doing, obviously, very well. He had Campman all busted up. But, it's kind of strange. It's almost like now, with all these guys sitting around waiting for title shots, or waiting for the guy that's in the title shot, or waiting for the guy that's #1 contender, there seems to be kind of a stagnant pool, at 170 right now. You got guys like, Johnny Hendricks, obviously, and really, I think Ellenberger, maybe Koscheck, maybe that fight would be a great one. And for Campman, speaking of, a lot of people thought that he beat Diego Sanchez, and I realized that Sanchez is coming off a loss against Ellenberger, but maybe a Campman-Sanchez rematch, kind of like they're, just concretes Campman's place and maybe gets him a title shot. But again, the 170-pound class right now seems to be in a bit of a flux, and I don't really know where they're going with GSP on the sidelines, Condit waiting it out. Again, it's a complicated division, so I guess we'll have to see what Joe Silva and Dana White and the boys at the UFC decide.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be one of those things. With Condit, like I said again, and I'm going to keep using it because I loved it, Chuck never ducked anybody. Yeah, he knew he was the #1 seed. He wanted his title shot. He didn't want to have to wait the year and a half that it would take, and he stayed active. And that's why my props have always been to Chuck. He'll fight. He's not worried about, hey, I'm not losing. He's not sitting there thinking, oh, man, if I go out there, anything could happen and you lose your title shot. I can get why you would. I mean, obviously, the way fights can end so quickly in MMA, yeah, you want to hold on. But the reality is, I mean, you got these other guys, like you said, you just named a gigantic list of people. They're not just knocking the door down. They're blowing the house down trying to get at that same title shot. And so how long do you let anybody sit? You know what I mean? Condit, I don't know how long you'd let anybody actually sit when there's this many people that are looking, if they have to keep fighting each other, they're obviously knocking each other down the ladder, and then they're just letting these two sit up there. Now, St. Pierre, of course, he's earned his spot. Hey, he can sit back, let him heal, that and stuff. But Condit, you're relatively new, as a champ. regardless, you should be fighting, waiting, being able to wait it out. I don't know if I would let that happen because there's so many guys that are chomping at the bit for that chance. I can understand why he wouldn't do it, but at the same token, I don't know if he should be allowed to do it in that aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and now obviously with today's guest jumping back into the fold, the guy that he's fighting, Rory MacDonald, is another hot commodity. Today's guest, BJ Penn, puts himself right back into that pool as well with these same guys. You got Nick suspended. It's just a tough. It's a tough call, and I guess we'll see what the future brings. But speaking of the future, let's talk about tomorrow night with a rematch here between Mighty Mouse and Uncle Creepy. What do you see going on in this fight? Obviously, they fought to a draw, I guess is what it would be called now officially. In the ring, it appeared that Mighty Mouse had gotten the nod afterwards, even though they had the overtime round that they could have used. They realized they made an error, and after the fight was over, they realized it was a draw, so they have to do the whole thing over. How do you see this fight playing out, Jens?
It's going to be the same thing. I think it's going to be, obviously, they live up to the moniker that you would expect from 25ers. You know what I mean? Is this buzzsaw. I mean, they're like two little badgers just tearing at each other. The honey badger, so to speak. And, they're going after each other. So, I mean, I can't see anything unless, again, the sport, things happen so fast. Boom. I mean, we're looking for a war. Next thing you know, it's a one-shot wonder. What? So I think it's going to be the same type of deal again. Obviously, Demetrius is the faster, super fast, lightning quick kid, but with that super speed, where is the finishing power? Is he more of that Frankie Edgar that he's just more worried about putting hands on you? It's almost like that amateur boxing style where it's how many times I can hit you, not how hard I hit you, but how many times I can hit you. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily putting anybody away because it doesn't, the shots are there. Maybe you can put them together, pop, 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 bang, but that's the way I see it. I mean, obviously, I want your take on this, but to me, again, it's too fast. It's too furious with these guys. And again, to come after each other again, I'm sure they're just basically went right back into camp and went, okay, here we go. We're going to just be doing extra rounds this time around.
Yeah, this fight, and I think a lot of it had to do with that being DJ's first time at 125. McCall had fought outside of the UFC. Obviously, he'd fought in the WC before, but he was fighting outside the UFC at 125 pounds, and I think his body had acclimated to it. And McCall's a big guy. He's actually a really big 125-pounder. It wouldn't be surprising to me to find out that he comes into the ring even at 140 pounds, which if you're looking at, body percentage for weight, that's a big, big weight. So the guy's a big guy. And I thought that looking at DJ last time that maybe he had not gotten paranoid about the weight cut, but had really worked himself down to, he just looked small, I guess is the best way to say it. He looked very small, and I thought, well, that's the weigh-ins. We'll see him at fight time. But he still looked really small at fight time. How much does that play with a guy? And Jens, you've fluctuated weights throughout your career. How much does that first cut to a lower weight weigh on your mind? Not only that to make the weight, but then physically to try to carry it into the ring.
Well, and that was the thing. Dropping down to 135, not going to make this about me. But the first time around, I outdid it. And, and it was you that came up, after. It's like, how is it that you were a thick 155-pounder and yet somehow you've now managed to make yourself a small 35-pounder? I know everybody thinks, hey, I'm going to drop down a weight and I'm going to be the bigger guy because I was fighting at 155 and now I'm fighting at 45. But the reality is, like you said, you start acclimating your body. You just start to shrink to make that weight. And, a lot of people, I guess it's more about how much time do you want to keep your size and how much time do you really want to spend cutting the weight so that you can have that bigger body. Or like what I was saying, when I was paranoid the first time, I was really worried about it. I mean, hadn't made 35 since high school. I made it too far out. I mean, I walked into weigh-ins or the week of weigh-ins, I was walking around at 138. Obviously, that was a boo-boo because your body does start to, get smaller. It shrinks, starts to hold its position, and it doesn't balloon back up because you basically shrunk everything and became a small guy. So that's really what kind of comes into play when it comes to cutting weight. When it's your first time especially, you're going, okay, well, I want to make sure I'm going to make it, and so maybe you go a little too hard and start from too far out. and actually shrink your body, and that's kind of what it looks like. And then you're worried about, you're starting to feel the cotton mouth, you're starting to feel the frustration of making the weight, the cramping and everything else, and then you're worried about, okay, did I go too far? You feel sluggish the next day. 24 hours isn't always the cure-all, the end-all, beat-all when it comes to putting the weight back on and feeling better the next day. Sometimes if you cut too hard, you just can't get it back.
Yeah, it does seem. I think that I expect a lot better performance out of DJ this time around. Obviously, the weigh-ins are later on, and we'll have to find out. But I expect a much better performance. I thought he kind of hit the wall in that last fight in the last round. I just think that he did exactly what you said. He said he was walking around 2 pounds over the week of weigh-ins and whatnot, and literally then you try to put back on the size, and there's no size to put back on. You've already done the damage to your body. There's 2 pounds. You know, that's the 2 pounds to put back on. So, and let's take a look at a little bit down the card as well. A fight I'm really excited for. I want your take on because I know that you know him very well, the dentist. What do you think about Josh Neer? He's 33-10 against Mike Pyle, 22-7. That's a great matchup of two savvy veterans.
Yeah, you know what? And that's the one thing that could happen with this fight is both of them can bring it. But both of them have also, quote unquote, shat the bed, and that's with an A, not an I. You know what I mean? So in a couple of fights, and that's, you know, but Neer seems to be on some kind of tear. I remember that the other fight, the one fight when he was just bombing elbows, left, right, hanging in there. He's got my boxing coach, God love him, Perez, coming out of Alley Cat Boxing, and they've had this system going now. They got a real good rapport, him and Josh Neer, and Josh has found it. He's got a new level. I mean, he's got this. He's a different fighter. Yeah, you look at his record. This kid's been around for a long time, and you know, to be able to go out there and as long as I think it's going to come down to game plans. Might be one of those fights where he says, "All right, you ready? You ready? Let's fight." And when they come together, it's going to be who backs up, because the reality is they're going to start throwing down, getting crazy a little bit, and I think that's what's going to happen. This literally could be that kind of fight. Who does Josh Neer duck? Nobody. If you're great at stand-up, well, hey, he's going to be right there in front of you. He's got that iron face that just, no matter how big the beating, he's going to go after it. And Pyle, you know, he's got a different kind of tear. The guy can get you on the ground, too. You have to watch him. You know, Josh has always been, he's more of the brute fighter. Pyle will try to be the slicker, pretty fighter in that aspect. You know how the prettier fighter, the Floyd Mayweather, everything slip, boom, boom, slick, punch, out of the way. How do you make that? How do you catch a pretty fighter? Oh, you got to get in there and make it ugly. And Josh Neer can make a fight ugly in the aspect that, and then it just becomes a straight brawl. All game plans go out the window, and if that happens, that's a Josh Neer fight.
And let's talk about another fight here that a guy you're very familiar with, obviously, an old wrestling partner of yours from your Boise State days. Scotty Jorgensen matching up against Eddie Wineland. Jorgensen's 12-4. He's fought Cruz. He's fought everybody in the division. And then you have Eddie Wineland, 17-8-1. He's fought guys like Faber. He's been on a tear out. He was on a tear outside the UFC before they brought him in. What do you think this fight? What do you think it shapes up to look like?
You know, this is one of those fights where if they can, you know, Scotty has been real good. I know he wants to do the stand-up, but he's proven it when he did, you know, against Jeff Curran and things like that. His takedowns, he's a great wrestler, you know, and Wineland, I mean, he's been around a lot longer than people think, or maybe they haven't heard as much of, you know. I mean, at one point, you know, in the WEC, he was like the WEC champ back in the day, you know, and before it came over, went to Vegas and all that. But, you know, he's a good fighter in the fact that he has KOs. He has, you know, he's got his decisions. He can go the distance. I don't know. This might become a wrestling match. Not in the sense of they're just going to stand out in the middle and start trying to tie each other up and go for fireman's carries and, you know what I mean, and saltos and things like that. But it's going to be a matter of who's going to bring the fight to the other one. And Scotty, he doesn't mind being a counter fighter. He doesn't mind standing back and letting, you know, and avoiding the damage and using his wrestling pedigree, you know, as his staple. So I don't know. I mean, I want your take on this one because, you know, you're the intelligent side of this show. So I want your take on this one.
Well, I think it comes down to a lot. This is a kind of a strange thing to say about a fight, but what Scotty chooses to do in the fight. I think if he's brash and decides I'm going to stand toe to toe with this guy and maybe entertain the crowd or try to impress Dana or Joe Silva or Sean Shelby, some of these guys sitting there watching, maybe then he finds himself in a rougher fight than it needs to be, because in honesty, I can't see Wineland being able to stop his wrestling if Scotty decides to use it. If he's taking him down, if he's putting him up against the fence and using his takedowns to get position, I think that it's a very long night for Wineland. But then, of course, the flip side is that I think if Scotty tries to do too much boxing in this fight without mixing it up, that he could find himself in a lot of trouble, because one thing we know about Wineland is he can throw them things. I mean, there's no doubt that the guy, he can stand and he can throw, and it's not something you want to be toying around with. So I guess it's one of those fights where you have to block everything out. You're not out there to impress anybody. You're out there to get a win. And I think if Scotty can do that, then he should be able to get at least a unanimous decision in this fight.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And again, I mean, we'll just have to kind of sit back. It's always a semi crapshoot. Again, you have all these different styles. There's just so many things that can happen in a fight where you expect them to come in one way, and then they end up just blowing your mind and trying to fight the other. I mean, Wineland's been in decisions. He's been there with the big boys. I mean, and Alpha Male, God, he's got more time against them than pretty much anything. So, that's going to be. It's going to be a great fight, I think, either way, because, again, their speed, their precision. But every time you see ground guys, you see two wrestlers or something like that fighting, somebody ends up winning by a knockout. So, we'll have to see who. I think more than anything, we'll see who brings the kicks into this deal, because that might give the only advantage. Who's going to start throwing the combinations rather than the one punch. Or if they do throw that one heavy bomb, they do it Ellenberger style, where it's one big bomb to get in, tie up that body. And then, we might see a little more. I'd like to see a little more of that dirty boxing, that inside clinch without anybody hitting the ground, where they're just tangling up. They're in the over-under positions. They're trying to throw knees. And that could be the breaking point for one of them.
Hey, and another fight coming up this weekend, to change gears a little from MMA itself, but we have Timothy Bradley and Manny Pacquiao scheduled to face off on the 9th. Give me your take on where you think Pacquiao is at this point in his career, and what do you think is going to happen in the ring against Bradley?
Well, the thing is with Pacquiao, I mean, he always wanted the one fight, and with Mayweather and things of that nature. Pacquiao's gone out there and destroyed everybody with fitness. His punches are just ridiculous. You know what I mean? And his output is incredible. So it's going to be, can you fight a guy who will throw damn near 800 punches around, exaggerating a little bit, but he will try to make that factor. He'll try to go out there and throw them. He'll try to throw all day. So I don't know. For Bradley, it's going to be, ignore who you're fighting. This again is one of those showcase gigantic fights. You got a kid that, he has been hurt. Pacquiao can get punched, he can get hurt, but at the same token, let that guy get a roll going, let that ball start going downhill, and you can't stop him. So we'll see how it plays out and see what Bradley can do, to nullify the fact that there's going to be about, again, I like to say it, 800 punches thrown in each round.
Yeah, looking at Bradley, obviously coming up in weight, Pacquiao, he's been up in multiple weight classes. I think that maybe this might be the deep end of the pool for Bradley, but at the same time, I think that it's only in theory the deep end of the pool, because watching some of Pacquiao's last performances, I'll be honest with you, I'm not as impressed as I once was. I thought that he lost his last fight to Marquez. I actually thought he'd lost all 3 fights to Marquez, I'll be honest with you. I don't think that he's beaten him one time. And I think that the counter-punching, he's starting to hang in the pocket. His speed's not quite what it was, and he's kind of getting caught in that pocket. And he's getting countered a lot. And he's having a lot of trouble with guys that are able to counter off, his jab and his hook. And, what do you do to make the adjustments if you realize that?
Well, I think the biggest thing, too, is, with Pacquiao, number one, he's got to be running out of the fire, so to speak. He's got to be running out of that drive, because, look at all the fights he's been in. The people that he's beat. Obviously he's going to go out there. He's still going to fight hard because of, who he is. With the counterpunch guys, man, you have to know that those counterpunches are going to come, but they're going to come early. They're going to come when you start stepping in and throw your first two, three, one or two punches. If you're only throwing one or two, hey, because you're worried about that counterpunch, that could be the negative side. Plus side for Bradley, negative side for Pacquiao is he's going to throw one or two, and then, oh, where's the counter, where's the counter? And if it don't show up for a minute, you pop your head back up like that turkey neck, and I always say, bang, you get hit again. Or vice versa is if Bradley's waiting on punches one or two and he's trying to counter, well, what happens when Pacquiao throws punches 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? So, the counter punchers, they can work, especially against a guy that's coming forward, and it works real well with the guy who's only throwing one or two punches. But Pacquiao, I mean, come on, we all know who he is. We know what he does. He doesn't throw one or two punches. So now you got to basically needle through a barrage of punches to get your counter shots off, or you're going to have to just turn it around and become the offensive guy. Pop, 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 sag back on a shot, duck underneath the shot, block a punch, and fire again. But the problem is there's too many punches, I think, that Pacquiao throws, so that could be the deciding factor again. Punches and bunches.
And do you think that maybe you talked about it, the motivation, obviously he's fought all these guys and it's hard to get the fire. Do you think it holds any weight that people are saying, now that he's turned into a very religious man? Obviously, he even closed down his own bar in the Philippines because it served alcohol and he didn't want people drinking and gambling and whatnot. He won't even be around alcohol in any way now. He devotes most of his time to Bible studies. Do you think that a guy who came up, selling cigarettes on the street, do you think that plays a little bit into maybe – can he get up for these fights anymore? I mean, doesn't it take I remember a quote by Rob Kamen that said, you cannot lovingly beat the shit out of somebody. You have to be vicious and use some of that animal instinct when you fight. That's the only way I know how to do it. 100% and vicious. What do you think about Kamen's quote compared to maybe how Pacquiao now seems to be living his life?
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, you spent the beginning of your life, and as a guy who can sit there and say this exact thing is, kids come involved, you start a family. That's not negative, that's a great thing, but in the beginning, when you're driven by hunger, your fuel is where you came from. Like I said, changing a name. I mean, you see the documentary that you fought to change the name. I fought to go out there and change everything that I came from. That's motivation in itself. But what happens when you get up there and you're at the top and you're sitting, okay, now you're just sitting back, you're waiting for people to come up there and try and knock you off the hill? Yeah, that carries out too. That definitely motivates you, for a while. But the reality is, at some point, I'm finally starting to understand why it is athletes retire, fighters retire. You're kidding yourself if you think it's just damage. It's not. And again, there's a percentage, okay? But for the most part, people, because exactly that, there's life to go live. There's things that you want to be and things that you want to do. And, be it a family, be it the career after you made your name, the work that, that you want to do, the things that you want to do after fighting starts to come into play when people start telling you, hey, you only have a couple years left. Hey, you only have a couple fights left. Hey, you only got this going on. So it's hard to change that up. Obviously, Pacquiao's always been able to rise, but it's what gets you into what I always talk to people about the mental side is what gets you into your camp for 2 months. Oh, we're going to see if he answers because this will just interrupt everything. But what gets you into those 2 months of training before the fight? Can you be hungry? Can you get after it?
Yeah, and Jens, do you think that it takes a little bit of, and I don't want to say hatred, but a feeling of animosity, maybe maybe you hold them in contempt for even wanting to step into the ring? Do you think that it takes some of that to be successful in the sport?
Well, that's exactly it. And that's why I think, a lot of people see the trash talking. They see, and you get monikered right off the bat, oh, that dude's a dick, or that guy's an ass. I'm going to throw a Diaz out there. And I always said about him is he legitimately hates people. That's the one thing I always have to give to the Diaz boys is they got legitimate hatred. So I'm going to cut all that because I've been waiting for this little brother. And I think, hey, why you got to shock everybody, BJ? What's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's the Power Brothers doing?
Doing good.
It
Good
sounds like
morning
you
for
just woke
you.
up. Yep. Hey, we're your roosters in the morning. We're crowing at the sun. Wake up, BJ. How's everything going, bud?
Everything's all right, man. I'm just been hanging out, just enjoying Hilo. It's been beautiful lately.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into it right off the bat. You and I, we talked even weeks ago about maybe what you were going to do, and you hadn't made up your mind. And I saw you on MMA Live and a couple other shows, and you were keeping it pretty tight to the vest. Obviously, I saw an interview last week. I think you saw the same one of Rory MacDonald saying how he'd love to fight you before you retired, that he was very confident that he could win the fight. So what brought you back, BJ? What did it?
Yeah, I guess that when Roy put the challenge out there, I for me, I'd love to, honestly, with Koscheck and Pettis and all these other people and Melendez calling me out, I'd love to I'd love to take another crack at someone good like Rory MacDonald and TriStar Gym. I think it. I had the fight with my last fight with TriStar Gym was all the way back in UFC 94, and it didn't go the way I wanted. And I'd love to take another crack at him and show that I can do better than I did last time.
And is there a certain motivation then? Obviously, you talked about it a little bit, but knowing that this is a TriStar guy, your last fight, you're right, it didn't go the way that you had planned. There was greasing involved. Obviously, the commission even came forward and told you, hey, you need to file an injunction. We caught him greasing. Does that play in your mind at all leading up to this fight, like how bad you want to stick it to TriStar, to Fareed, and even show GSP, like, hey, that was a fluke, man?
You know what? The past is the past. There's nothing for me to really talk about on that end. All that stuff. That's definitely left in the past. But yeah, I just want to. It'd be nice to let them know that was a fluke. The fight's not going to go down the same way. Rory's not going to just walk in there and take me out, and beat me up for 4 rounds straight and end up putting me away. I really believe the fight's gonna go different, and I think they're gonna realize that when we start fighting, that this isn't the same fight, that this isn't the same guy that they fought that night, and this is gonna be a whole different thing. But besides that, no bad blood. I mean, I've seen Faraz over the time. I've seen George. Everything is in the past. But I'd like to get out there. Show TriStar Gym, show their fans or whatever that I'm a worthy opponent. I'm not just a guy that's gonna walk in the ring and somebody's gonna walk across the other side and just walk across and crush me. That's not going to be the story.
So any extra motivation you're taking on the young guy that, I mean, even GSP was saying this is the guy that's going to he'll be the champ when I'm done. This is the guy that's going to he's the future. He is all of these things. And you've seen him in his last couple of fights, the Che Mills, just the way that he looks. Is that, what do you think about Rory as a fighter, and what do you think about, have you seen the chinks in his armor that motivate you and get you pumped to fight him?
I see Rory is very good. Yeah, and he's still young, but I think he's been in the game so long. It's he's got a lot of miles on him. I mean, not miles in where his body's worn down or anything. I just mean he's got a lot of experience. For being so young, he's been at a high level, for a couple years now, and he's a great test. Like, I was just watching a video of him yesterday, and he was saying, I'm 22, and when I'm 24, I'm going to be the world champion. So, you know, and he's very good. He's got a lot of he's got a lot of confidence. I'm sure his team has got a lot of confidence in him also. So I think that, you know, this is definitely a great challenge and a great test, you know. So with that said, you know, I like everything. I'm definitely very motivated for this fight. You know, I like everything that's going on with this fight. Rory's one of the best guys. You know, Faraz and everybody says he's going to be the champ in 2 years, and you know, I'm not thinking about any type of title run right now. I'm just coming back doing this fight, and this is actually. I'm pretty sure this is the last fight on my contract. I have to go back and check again, but I think this is the last fight on my contract, and I'd like to finish out my contract also.
And just to talk about this fight a little bit, obviously it's at 170. You've had some time off, a long time to reflect on, you know, maybe coming back, maybe not coming back at all. Was there ever any time where you thought, well, you know, maybe I'll cut to 55 again, maybe even try to get a super fight even as high as 85? I know you fought even Machida at heavyweight. Weight's never an issue for you, but do you feel like this is the optimal weight for you at 170, competing against a guy like Rory who might come into the ring at, say, 185 pounds?
You know what? The last three guys I fought have been 25 pounds heavier than me, or 185 pounds. You know, John Fitch, Matt Hughes, Nick Diaz. You know, they're all that much bigger than me. And honestly, I've never stood in front of somebody and thought when I walked away that there's no way I can beat that guy. I've never felt that kind of talent standing in front of me. I never felt that kind of aura, that kind of, you know, that kind of ability. I mean, except for the first time that I fought Jens, you know. But I've never felt, you know, when I've stood in front of somebody, I've never walked away like, man, there's no way I can beat that guy. You know, so I'm pumped up. I wouldn't mind, you know, if everything goes well in this fight, you know, maybe you might see me get, because I'm gonna have to drop a little bit weight to get to the fighting weight for this, and maybe you will see me in 55 one day. But honestly, I don't really have plans from looking past this. I don't have plans for like I said, for a title run. I don't have plans for anything. But you know, you never know what the future may hold. You know, my last three, a lot of people talking to me like, oh, why don't you go back to lightweight? And I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of fat right now. I gotta lose some weight. And my last three fights, I did it. I've taken at welterweight. You know, so for me to just lose the weight and go in there and fight those fast guys, you know, everybody, a lot of people, you know, they ask me, what's the big difference, you know, with the different weight classes? And I always say, you know, the bigger guys are stronger, but they're slower. And the smaller guys, yeah, of course, they're a little weaker because they're smaller, but they're quicker. It just, everything offers different challenges, you know, and I feel good. I feel good about this whole thing. You know, like I said, I fought my last three fights at 170 pounds, and I got no fear whatsoever of any type of size difference.
And, you know, you've been out traveling for the UFC for several months. You've been out, obviously, you got to even see snow for the first time. I remember you saying that was kind of a trip for you when you were in Sweden. What's it like now? Is it hard at all to come back and put your work boots on and get back to plugging away and grinding and training? Or do you feel like a whole new sense of like you're reborn, baby, like old school? You just came up out of the KY, you know, wrestling, the jelly wrestling, and you feel like Blue on his birthday, or...
I feel like Blue on his birthday, baby. That's exactly what I feel like. Blue on his birthday. There couldn't be a better explanation.
Oh my God! I'm laughing. Okay. Now here's one I have, and this is a guy he wrote on Facebook, and he's a big fan. And as the reporter side of this role that I have to have, this is from Eric Keown, who he just said, you know, I'm gonna read it verbatim. him. He said, please ask BJ what he plans on doing differently with his cardiovascular training. As a huge BJ Penn fan, it's hard to watch BJ in a lot of his fights because he can gas in the second round. His cardio was couture-like when he trained with the Marinoviches. And his question is there any chance he will go back to Marinovich training?
Okay, he actually brings up a very good question and a very good point. No, you know what it is. I believe, I mean, there has been some fights that I've taken on short notice, and I've come in there and I haven't been in shape. But a lot of the times, no one is going to buy this. But a lot of times, the mistake I make is that I work out too much. And I use all my energy, and by the time I get to the fight, I'm just so burnt out from listening to 10 different coaches and listening to 10 different coaches argue with each other or this and that and this and that. And but I mean, by the training camp starts, I can go 10 rounds, and by the time a couple weeks before the fight, I can't even get out of the first round. And I think that's just different mistakes. That everybody collectively as a team, it's tough. It's tough for a person on the outside to gauge what that guy's doing, what their guy's doing. I mean, if your fighter ends up going into a fight with an injury or overtrained or whatever it may be, a lot of coaches, they don't want to take the blame. But I mean, I would have to think that's the coach's fault. You cannot, you almost want to tell a guy when you hire him, because a lot of people, they walk up to you all the time and they say, come on, I can do this, and I can help you do this, and I'll make you so great, and I'll do this and that. And I want to tell them, and if you don't, and we fail, can you pay me? Can you give me the money that I'm going to lose? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why don't you pay me up? Why don't we put your money in a deposit? Whether it's, I mean, we're talking about a lot of money, winning and losing certain fights. And it's like, that's just how I feel. That's how I feel about different coaches who come up and say, I can help you and do this and that. I just want to tell them, well, then, if it doesn't go like you say, you pay me whatever money we lose if something goes wrong. And I don't know how many coaches would put their money on the line for that. You know what I mean? But on another note, talking about Marinovich. Marinovich is a great coach, a great trainer. He knows how to train a lot of different sports. I have definitely learned a lot from Marinovich over the time. A lot of people talk about those fights, the Kenny Florian and Diego fights, and people ask different things. And to tell you the truth, the Kenny Florian fight was after the GSP fight, and I was so embarrassed by the way everything went. One day I'm beating Sean Shirk, and I'm the best fighter on the planet. I had a bad fight with GSP, and then everybody's saying, oh, you're making excuses, you ain't good, and this and that. So I was just so motivated coming out of the gate for that. I wanted to fight Kenny Florian, fight Diego. We were talking, Dana was talking to me about putting another fight together with GSP after the Diego fight. And to tell you the truth, I never even wanted to fight Frankie Edgar, Matt Hughes, John Fitch, and Nick Diaz. I never even really wanted to fight those guys. I wanted my revenge for UFC 94, when all that went down, because that was big news at the time. And, I didn't even want to fight those other fights. Those are fights I was just doing. I didn't even know why I was doing those fights. I was just fighting, just living, because I hate to sit at home and sit on the couch. But, that's just everything that happened. I mean, I'm not sitting here obsessing about the whole thing with whatever controversy happened at the 94. Like I said, that's the past. I got nothing to say on that. There's nothing that I can say about that. All that is done at this point. And Yeah, but I do. I want to go in there. You know, I got a lot of offers from all these other guys to fight. But when I got the offer from Rory, I'm thinking, good. I get to fight that brain of TriStar Gym. You know, a lot of it is for Roz. You know, and they got a good thing going up there. They got a good team, and you know they're making a lot of waves. I mean, of course, they got St. Pierre, who's going to go down as the greatest welterweight in history, and then now they got another guy who they're saying this is him. He's going to be the champion. And I don't know. You know, like I said, I'm not thinking about any belts or anything of this and that, but I'm pretty good myself, and you know, I want to show them, or you know, I'll show them. I want to show the world that hey, you're not going to just walk in and kick my butt for 4 rounds. No ways. You know, you're going to the hospital too. You know, if I go to the hospital, you're going to the hospital too.
my boy.
And, you know, BJ, just talking about that a little bit, obviously coming off that guy's question about cardio and whatnot, wouldn't there be just as much to worry about in the MacDonald camp? I mean, he's only been the distance one time, and that was against a 155-pounder, Nate Diaz. Not to say Nate's, you know, a pushover of any kind, but he seemed to fade also in the fight with Condit. The guy has 5 KOs, TKOs, and 7 subs in 13 victories, and then the one over Nate. So really, when you think about it, what does anybody know about his cardio?
You're right. We don't know about his cardio, his experience. I mean, I definitely believe, and it's true. I believe your body, like anything else, how it can put limitations on speed or power or whatever it may be. I believe it. Some people's bodies. I mean, your cardio goes up to a certain point. You know, everybody's got their own strengths and weaknesses. You know, but everything is different. And like over the years, I honestly believe of me training for so long and fighting for so long and just living, or when I was, you know, in my 20s, living more of a carefree lifestyle. That's all that stuff that wears you down over a while, you know. And I've definitely had, you know, adrenal fatigue. I definitely know that I've had, you know, issues like that with my adrenaline and different stuff that I had to do. And everybody knows I'm all natural, so I just gotta wait and sit around to let my, you know, to let my body, let my organs and everything get back into balance or sync or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, as far as that goes with him, I mean, that's true. He's still untested, but you know, I think everything they're saying, it's true. I think he's very good. I think he comes from a very good team. He's got a lot of very good people, and they're going to have him ready. They're going to have him prepared. But yes, you know, like you say, this is going to be a big fight. This isn't a small fight, so there's going to be a lot on the line, and all those different stressors and all that different things. That's going to definitely play into the cardiovascular system.
Okay, because that kind of brings me to what I was going to ask. With the style, what kind of, I mean, knowing who you're going to fight, what kind of style are you wanting to bring into the octagon for this fight? Are you going to be the guy that sits back and goes, all right, not sit back, but say, hey, I'm going to fight, stand up until he tries to take me down, or I'm going to take the Mike Pyle aspect, I'm going to take him down, and, you know, the Pyle aspect and take him down? Are you going to try and do you want to be more of the aggressor and shut him down quick and feed off the fact that he is young and he can, and try to derail his momentum instantly? And again, I don't want to go back too far, but because I'm thinking about the competitor. I'm fighting BJ Penn. What is my goal? My goal is I am not going to back up. And if I can make this man take a step back, I got him. I'm going to start working at are you going to work on his psyche by shutting him down, stepping forward and crushing him? Or are you going to be the guy that wants to sit back? I'm going to counterpunch him a little bit when he shoots. I'm going to look to counterpunch him there. What are you looking at as far as an offensive, defensive strategy, fighting a younger guy who, like you said, they're giving him a lot of hype up there? What is it that you want to do when you go in there and fight him?
Yeah, he, you know, without giving away too much, I definitely want to be the aggressor. I definitely want them to, because I mean they got the last fight they can go back to look at is when to competing against them and their style and Rory's style. He's more like a St. Pierre type of game. Like somebody was asking me the other day. So they call you the prodigy and call Rory the prodigy now. Is he similar to you? Are you guys the same types of prodigies? And I would say, and I told him, I said, no, he's more like a bulldozer. I was more like a snake, and with that said,
good.
He was with that said, we know what, he got that great outside single, just like George. He's got a couple good things. From what I see from Faraz, Faraz really has him staying relaxed on his punches. And it's dangerous for opponents. You know how it is, Jens, when the guy settles in and he's really relaxed and he's not trying to hit the mitts too hard. He's not trying to hit his opponent too hard because you're going to miss. You're just trying to place him. You're just trying to put the punches there. And Faraz is a great coach. And Faraz is getting ready. Every time I see Faraz catching him on the mitts, I'm like, Faraz is training him the right way to keep his eyes open and just to be accurate, to put the punches where they need to be. And I got a lot of respect for that. I know the skill and I know the danger that comes behind someone who punches relaxed and doesn't get all tensed up and wound up. So, with that said, he's got a good team, a good camp behind him. So I don't want to give away too much, Jens, but the word aggressor, you used the right word when you talked about what I'm going to do when I step in the cage on that night.
And BJ, just to kind of pinpoint exactly when and where, this fight is being rumored right now. It hasn't been completely confirmed for UFC 152 in Canada. My question is, maybe that's the day. It's going to be a yes or no, I guess, on that. But was there any thought about you kind of holding off? There's supposed to be a rumored Hawaii card even. Was there any thought about you maybe sitting it out that long to see if they were going to actually have the show in Hawaii? Or are you just fine with going to Canada, up there right where TriStar is, and just being right there in their face?
Just go into the belly of the beast, Abel.
Yeah.
Go over there and take care of this.
I love it. I love it. See, and, man, I'm going to just give you always the props. You'll fight the toughest guys from day one. You've always said it. You're not out here to duck anybody. And you always have like this, you have these plans. Oh, this guy's a stud. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to knock him down. It's like you said, they might call him the prodigy, but I don't care, man. There's only one prodigy in my eyes, and it's always been you. And when you rise to that occasions and you go out there and you have a different kind of mindset, there's almost two mindsets to BJ Penn. And that's, I've always said is when BJ is motivated and he wants to hurt you, oh God, this is going to suck right here fighting this kid, And then there's other days when you're blind and it's like, okay, I may have a shot at this guy. I may be able to chink his armor a little bit, but with that being said, and, coming into this fight, where is it that you would, I'm still kind of stuck on all these coaches. I know what you're saying. They got their hands raised. I want to teach you. But do you know in your mind the kind of training camp, are you going to be more active, proactive in your training camp saying, okay, this is how I want it? Because, we follow the schedule that somebody places in front of us. But are you going to be more active because you know your body? Are you going to be more active in this is how I want the camp go? Somebody just hold that damn stopwatch and make sure I do it long enough.
You know what? I promise you that, Jen. I will be more active. And one more thing. This 8 months rest. I think it'll be around 11 months since I've been stepped back into the octagon. And you know what? This 8 months rest, it did wonders. I feel like a 22-year-old kid. I got a lot of things on my mind. I got a lot of things I want to do. A lot of ways I want to train. I want to work out. And this rest did me so good. And I just I feel strong. I got no injuries. You know, I don't think I'm stupid enough. Like, a big mistake that I'd always make would be like, okay, 3 months out, let's start sparring, and then spar all the way to the fight. And then by the time, like I said, and then 1 month before the fight, I can't even get out of the first round. You know, so I don't even know how much energy I'm going to have when I do step in the ring. But your mind always compensates and takes care of that. You know, those problems we all know as fighters, that your mind always steps up to the plate for ourselves. But yeah, I feel great. Like I said, I honestly believe I had adrenal problems, adrenal fatigue, different things, and I rested and I fixed a lot of those different things, and I promise you that, Jens, I'm taking this very serious. This isn't because I miss the attention, you know, and I want everybody to start talking about me fighting again. This is because, you know, I wanna prove a point that you know, I'm better than what they saw at UFC 94. But with that said, no bad feelings. Forget the controversy, forget all that stuff. But you know, I'll let them know, and I'll let Canada know that I can do better than what they saw the last time.
And BJ, one last question before we let you go here. You know, a lot of fans have said you can always tell what BJ Penn's going to show up at the weigh-ins. So let's just go out there and let's just say it. What weight is the optimal weight for you to weigh in at this fight, you think, to compete maybe at your best level? And then what do you think, you know, you're going to walk into the ring at?
I think, you know what? First thing I gotta do, honesty, I'll just be frank with you right now, and that's why I didn't want to jump into any kind of training camp very soon. You know, I've just been hanging out on the couch watching the kids, and I got a big belly. I'm 185 pounds. I look like crap, man. And you know what? First thing I want to do, I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. Hey, first thing I want to do, I want to take off 20 pounds. I want to get to 165 pounds, and then I want to get ready, and then when I start jumping in camp, I want to be losing weight during camp. I want to just take it off, do it. You know, that's my best weight right there. And you know, when I know when I'm going in, I'm focused. Everything's ready to go. He ain't gonna see my fist coming. He ain't gonna see my takedowns. He ain't gonna be able to stop the submissions. You know, and that's what I feel. I feel very confident. This isn't a kind of thing where I'm going out thinking, you know, Roy's real good, I think I can beat him. And it's none of that, because I really feel everything is on par. I mean, I'm all natural, everything, but I feel that, you know, maybe my testosterone is back up, my everything, you know, my adrenals, my testosterone, the whole nine. I feel good. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this whole challenge. I'm ready for the whole camp, and I'm ready to walk up to Toronto. I'll fly up to Toronto into the belly of the beast. I'm going to see a fire-breathing dragon, and I'm going to pull out my sword, and I'm ready. I'm ready to do this.
Oh, I love it. See, man, I was pumped just to hear it. I know we're going to let you go, brother, because I want you to go relax, and it's got to be early over there, so you enjoy your time. But you know, I want to thank you very much for coming on here. And you know, yeah, I was very excited to hear this. And you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I know a lot of people are going to be real happy, you know, and real curious about, you know, how this whole camp's going to go, everything like that. I know I told you, man. Me and Abel both. Hey, you need a couple of jesters to sit over there and pull jokes. You just let me know, my friend, and we can talk on the phone. But I'm very happy to hear from you, you know, and I'm real happy to hear the mindset and what it is that you're doing to go into this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's one, definitely got to get you guys out here to come hang out. You know, that's for sure. Train and crack some jokes. And on the other side, I remember you asked me, you said, what are you going to do? You're going to train different or this and that? I'm going to make sure a month before the fight, I'm going to end up in a place. I'm going to be training with a lot of good fighters around me. And you guys will be comfortable. The Pulver boys will be comfortable when they see what I'm doing.
Man, brother, I love you, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for the weeks to come. And again, thank you for taking the time, waking up and having to talk to the two Pulver mugs right off the yayo. Your day can only get better from here. All right. It can only get better after talking to us.
you know what? I woke up and I was like, oh no, it's 7:30, it's 7:30, and I was like, and I got nervous. I got nervous to come on this. I got nervous to come on the show. I was almost shaking before I got on. You heard me at the beginning when you were asking me, why'd you take the fight, man? This and that. I'm starting to warm up, and now it's time to leave. Such is life. Such is life.
Oh,
you know,
I love
as
it,
soon
man.
as you got everything figured out, it's time to die. That's the terrible thing about this world. You know, but it's wonderful.
That's the conversations that
wonderful.
we need to have right there, brother. You just keep on smiling, man. Right through it. You got, like I said, there's only one person you got to talk to at the end of the day, and that's yourself. And you know, and so I'm excited for you. I'm real excited. Look, I got goosebumps. You're cracking me. I love it, man. So, man, get out of here. Go have some fun, and we'll be talking to you real soon. Thank you, BJ, for your time.
Thank you very much, boys. Thanks for having me so much. I'll call you guys later. Take care.
Okay, bud.
Later, buddy.
Bull Pulver. What do you do? I mean,
hey, where is Ray Mercer when we need him? Where's Ray Mercer when we need him? Famous line, baby. That kid cracks me up. I love the fact that he said it. You know, I'm gonna go up there into the belly of the beast, see a fire-breathing dragon. I'm gonna take out my sword. There's no fear in this guy. And if anybody thinks that BJ had stepped away because he, you know, of afraid of fighting or afraid of getting hit, you know, I've heard people say these things, and they're just idiotic. Let me tell you what, the guy has no fear in him. You're not going to meet many like him. He's one of God's own prototypes. He's too weird to live and too sick to die. And the kid he brings it every time. And I'm really excited to hear him, to hear that he's so motivated, and to hear that he's so excited about the fight. And I think any time that you have a combination of those two things, people get hurt.
No, for sure. And that's the thing. He's not a joke when he you know, and that, I mean, he's always a contender. You can never, here's the thing I try to tell people, you know, hey, sit back, have your opinions. You know, it's a social networking lifestyle nowadays. You can always jump on and say something about anybody or whatever. But you know what? Champs. He's a champion. He was born a champion. The kid's a champion from day one when it comes to fighting. He has it, you know. And I think, like I said, all he needs to worry about is himself and smiling. And he's doing this because he loves it. I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there except for the jackass that wants to just to get some attention, say something stupid. He got nothing to prove. He's doing this for himself, and a lot of people I know are going to embrace it. I personally, I mean, I love it. I love seeing him fight every time. I don't care if you've been against him, if you've had to coach against him, if you've had to fight him or just hang out with him. You know, he's a marker on this sport, man. He's a martyr when it comes to that. He's a great fighter, and you know, put all of that aside, man. People can have their opinions, and I'm not even going to sit there and say something as cliche as until you've done it, you just don't know. That ain't it, man. But until you walk in his shoes, you just don't know him. Until you've stood next to him, you just don't know him. And that's the part that, you know, like I said, I love. You can already tell some people he's not making this up. He's literally excited. He's pumped. Like I said, absence, man, makes the heart grow fonder. Sometimes you can go without training a lick, walk in there, and you don't even realize, man, now all of a sudden your style's different. You know, how many times have you walked away from wrestling, Abel, only to watch a lot of matches and things like that? Your mind is constantly thinking, and before you know it, you have a different style when you walk into the wrestling room, you know?
No, absolutely. I remember, you know, going home times from even down there at MFS and having my butt handed to me and literally going home and not training, not rolling, not sparring, not doing anything, and then coming back down there 6 months later after having thought about all the stuff that I sucked at so bad and being able to actually do some of those things and have guys like in the gym say, wow, you've really been working hard. And in my mind thinking, no, I really haven't. But in truth, I think that you can. You step away from it. It gives you a little more clarity. It gives you kind of you can really start honestly assessing yourself. And I think BJ's done all those things. And I got to be honest, I see him, you know, doing really well in this fight. I think he's ready to shock the world again. Yeah,
I mean, and that's the guy you got to remember is the kid that made everybody get up on their feet and just scream and cheer, you know. And you've always got it in you, you know, and whether it be in the cage, whether it be just in life, you know, the spiritual side of BJ, I love when he talks about stuff, but that's the way he rolls. He's never changed his outlook. And, you know, he really does. A lot of people You know, they'll get in there, and like I said before, some guy will make the schedule, and you just follow it without even making question. If there's people out there saying, well, how could some coach make you out of shape or overtraining? Because the reality is, like I've said before, when you start getting into training camp, you don't even know the day. If you don't take the time, you don't even know the day it is, except for what you're doing in training. Well, I'm lifting, so it must be a Tuesday, or well, I'm sparring, so it must be a Wednesday. And so you need those people, because the last thing you want to do, any young fighter, anybody starting out, I get the question all the time, what advice would you give to a young fighter? Have it planned out, man. Have it written down for the week, for the month. Have that stuff on a calendar, because the last thing you want to do is wake up in the morning and go, well, what am I going to do today? Because that automatically opens up the ideals behind, well, I got to do this at home. You got to have that schedule. You have to be able to look at it. Like I said, give me one guy who can hold the damn stopwatch. And if I'm motivated, I'll do the workouts. I don't need somebody to do it in that aspect. I'll write them down, and this is what I want to do, which kind of leads me back to what I had said. Are you going to have more of an active role in your camp because you're fired up? I want to make sure I do this every day, but at the end of the day, make sure you write it down, and then you're holding yourself accountable. Don't ever try to be wake up in the morning and go, well, what are we going to do today? Because that right there, it's just too hard to have to do that.
Yeah, looking at it, and you guys have something in common, obviously. Your fight coming up at the end of this month is also against a guy who trains at TriStar. So hopefully, you'll be able to see some things during the fight, or, leading up to the fight and after the fight that, let you help him out. And I'm hoping for 2 victories for both of you, obviously, over the TriStar gym.
Oh, absolutely. And again, this is kind of what we had to push. This is why we were pushed back a couple of days. We'll always be back on Tuesday. There is going to be one day I'll be heading to Russia for the Fedor Pedro Hirzo fight. So, yeah, you're going to have to hear me talking a little bit. At some point, maybe, man, we're going to have to rap about Kenny Florian retiring or something, down the road. But before we go, I want to throw one out to Max Galloway, man, my little @Blessed MMA. What he did in his fight with his body shots. Did you see that fight, Abel? That guy, that little kid, I love him. I call him, he is my Hawaiian Little Evil. When I'm done, that kid's taking the name Little Evil. I already said, hey, it's yours. Especially the way he banged on those body shots. So I just want to say, again, props to him. I know he's at home, and hey, I may not be a sucker punch entertainment fighter no more, but I still love the guys that are on it. And with that, I think it's time to wrap it up. But we will be back on Tuesdays. Remember, you can follow us at Just Scrap Radio and leave your questions, leave your comments. Let us know what you think. This was episode 8 here on Just Scrap Radio, and we're going to be out. Abel, throw out the holla and
holler.
All right, everybody, be good. We'll talk to you soon.